Welcome back to the Grace Begins podcast. I'm Kathy Cardenas, and this is my beautiful co-host, Catherine Sutherland. And we are here to bring you another amazing story of God's grace in people's lives. And we have a very big one today. We're super excited, very much a household name. Everyone knows him. He is John Schneider, best known as Bo Duke from Dukes of Hazzard. We all grew up with that show. We love it.
Yeah.
Also, Jonathan Kent from Smallville. He is also a talented musician with over 20 albums with his name on it.
And a new song.
And a new song, yes. And a brand new song called She's Worth It.
Yeah.
And then also a philanthropist and a distiller. And a proud American, of course.
Yes.
So we're so excited to have him here. This is a big guest for us, and we're honored that he took time to come and be with us today. So welcome, John Schneider.
So obviously, we all know you as Bo Duke from Dukes of Hazzard, but you have an extensive acting career. You're a musician. You have all these amazing gifts. How did you get into acting? I've always wanted to know that.
I started in musical theater when I was 8.
Oh, wow.
So long time ago.
Yes.
And that was really inspired by a movie that Jimmy Cagney did called Yankee Doodle Dandy.
Wow.
I saw this movie, this guy's up there, and in Yankee Doodle Dandy, he played George M. Cohan, who was a songwriter, who was a singer, who was a dancer, who was a stage performer. And I thought, wow, it's not easy, but I think that's what I'm supposed to do. So I started at 8 and have never turned back.
Wow. Did you have any of that in your family? Was there any creative arts in your family?
There were creative arts. My dad played in a square dance band called the Crop Dusters. He was also a pilot.
The Crop Dusters.
Yeah, the Crop Dusters. So everybody
that could have a double
band,
meaning.
I know, right? Well, yeah. But I'm from New York State.
Yes.
And my dad played in that band, and I just loved it. My uncle had cerebral palsy and would listen to music in the basement.
Okay.
Sounds a little like woo, creepy. But that was his expression of who he was, and that was what he did almost all day, every day. And I would go down and listen to music with him. Three Dog Night, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, the Beatles. I remember when Help came out. My gosh.
Wow.
But I was too young to really be aware, but my uncle was aware. So he made me aware of all this great music that was coming out.
Wow.
So I've always been part of it, but nobody was in theater. No one was behind the camera or in front of the camera. That was kind of just me. But again, recognizing it as my design. It wasn't just oh, wow, I'd like to be up there. It was like, oh, wow, that's where I'm supposed to be. That's what I'm supposed to do. So I better get on to doing it because, I really wasted the first 7 years of my life.
Yes, at that ripe old age of 8.
I was not focused.
What a waste. Yeah.
Yeah. So by 8, you better get onto it.
Get working, dude.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you grew up in New York, but you moved to Atlanta when you were a teenager.
14, yeah.
Yeah, so you've been a Southern boy for a long time then.
Well, I have, but you have to think about Atlanta. So I really moved. People think about moving from New York to Georgia as moving from the city to the country, but it was quite the opposite. I moved from the country of New York to the outskirts of Atlanta, and was really a culture shock for me, but in exactly the opposite way that people think.
Right, because you were now going to a city. Yes.
Yeah, going to a city. Now, my mother's side of the family, she's from Florida, so or as we New Yorkers say, Florida. Florida. But she was from Sanford, Florida. So I had Southerners on that side of my family, but I'm from New York.
Yeah, I know. I was surprised to hear that you were from New York. I just assumed you seem like you're such rooted here. I was like, I don't know. I was surprised.
I am. I'm rooted on a dirt road, but that came from New York.
Yes, right.
My brother is a mayor now in New York, in Stamford, New York, which is the village of Stamford.
Wow.
Yeah, and I came from the village of Mount Kisco. So we had villages, we had towns, we had hamlets. Then moved to outside of Atlanta, we just had traffic.
So when you were in New York, you said you were doing theater, and then you moved to Atlanta, and is that when you started pursuing more?
Did more theater in Atlanta. I did everything
theater.
that there was to do. There was the Academy Theater. There was Onstage Atlanta. There was Underground Atlanta. There was the Peachtree Playhouse. And in those days, you did everything, which I highly recommend to anybody who has any desire to do anything. Do all of it that you can. There's nothing that's too little. It's all about preparing for that opportunity when it comes.
Right.
And much of the preparation for opportunity is expecting it. God made me to do something. I think God made me to do this.
Yeah.
So expecting it and then recognizing it when the opportunity comes.
Absolutely.
It's not just, what do they say? Success is when preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But you have to recognize that opportunity is there.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, I used to tell people all the time, you wake up and expect great things. Expect great things today.
Great advice.
Yeah, that is great advice.
They'll happen.
Yeah, it's a partnership. I feel like God partners with you to take you on your purpose. It's not just like, okay, God, like you do it. He asks us to work at it too.
Yeah. No, you have to be more than even just an active participant. You have to go for it. And you have to believe. This is where faith comes in. You have to believe that that's what God made you to be or to do, because God is up to something that we are part of, not the other way around.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't invite God into our circumstance. He has created us into His.
Right.
Where do you fit? What do you do? What are you supposed to be? Are you a hammer? Are you a nail? Are you a 2x4? What are you? Are you a singer? You a songwriter? Are you both? What are you trying to do? You're trying to tell a story, but why? Why are you telling a story? Because God wants the story to be heard.
Right.
So what is your part in the telling of that story?
I'm definitely not a singer. I can tell you that. There's a level of tone deaf. Yeah.
Everyone has their gifts. That's the
I
whole
can't think of
point.
everything.
They can fix that now. There's plenty of people.
That's
plenty
right.
of people selling lots of something. No records anymore.
Yeah,
but,
exactly. Yeah,
there are plenty of
something.
famous people who can't sing, and they're singers.
All right, good. There's still hope for me. Still hope for me to be a singer. Yeah.
Technology can
That's
fix
right.
that.
That's right.
Fix
yeah.
that.
So where in your journey, you talk a lot about God and your purpose. Did you find your faith at a young age? Was it something you were raised in? Was there a point in your life that you discovered that there was more?
Well, there was the first inkling that I had that I knew God was my grandmother one day, just out of nowhere. She said, one of these days I'm not going to be here anymore, but it's okay. I'll see you again. I was like, okay, Grandma, cool. That's about 1967, 1968. I remember where we were walking when she said it. And I will see her again. I will see Helen Schneider again. And it'll be as if no time has passed. So that was, oddly enough, that was enough for me to understand that God is. And I didn't go to church, and I didn't dwell on that. It was just like, oh, okay, cool.
Just accepted that as
just accept, because my grandmother told me.
Right.
Right. So then many years later, I guess it was during Dukes, I went to play some music at a church with a friend of mine, and I saw a little old man after he was trying to get up off the floor after prayer, and a little old white guy and a big old young black guy with like beads, and it wasn't Mr. T, but it was around that era.
Yeah.
And his name was Ollie, and Ollie helped Vern up off the floor, and they gave each other a hug, big, like Davy and Goliath. Or David and Goliath. I love Davy and Goliath.
That's a good one too.
Great show. But I saw that and I thought, well, that's what the love of Christ is. I want more of that, because society and the news, and this was before the internet, would tell you that relationship doesn't or shouldn't or couldn't exist. So what was in the center of that relationship? It was Jesus.
Yeah.
So that was another like, oh, that's what it is. That's what unconditional love is about. So that stuck with me. So I've never not believed, but I've never really been a beat people over the head with my beliefs. Because I remember, when you don't get it until you get it.
So true.
And then when you do, it's like trying to describe gosh, we saw a beautiful sunset yesterday with a rainbow and fingers of light coming somehow from you can't explain that to someone who's not seen it.
Right.
Yeah. It's like that conviction. There's this like a conviction that comes over you when you get that testimony that no one else. I think it's individual to you. It's like you go, oh, that's real.
Mm.
And I've had that since several times. I've had, affirmations that, this is real. What we're doing here is important. Telling these stories is important, but this ain't it. Yeah. This ain't all there is by a long shot.
Mm-hmm.
And there comes a point, I think, when you go from having that be a thought that you'd like to hang on to, a thought that you'd like to believe, and it turns into something you must believe.
Mm-hmm.
After you get past a certain age, you used to be able to say, well, I'm creeping into middle age. Well, I don't know very many 128-year-olds, so I guess middle age is somewhere over there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
Which I think is important for people to understand that a lot of things change when you get past the middle.
Mm-hmm.
You can push the middle for a while, but it's hard to push the middle much past 52.
Okay, I'm not there. I'm hitting the middle mark.
I wasn't looking at you for any reason. I'm just saying.
What are you there too? I think it's starting to show on us. Yeah, we're almost.
Or 27. No, you can. But you can.
Yes.
But you start to look at things differently.
Yes, absolutely.
And for a while I looked at that as well. I'm closer to the end than the beginning.
Mm.
But now I'm looking at it like, well, no, I'm closer to the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Than whatever that was before that.
Right.
Yeah.
Because God is. Heaven is. It's all real. Everything you've heard is true.
Mm-hmm.
So embrace it.
Yeah.
Right.
And
use
ask him
this
about
time.
it.
Use the time you have to make a difference and work for him. Yeah.
Yeah. So what am I supposed to do now? Okay.
Right.
Because I want to do it.
And you're doing 1,000,001 things.
Yeah, we're impressed.
Yes.
You got a lot going on. And you're still staying, I think, it seems like humble and faithful through it all, because I think it seems like, especially in this industry, we've had other people, and we're both kind of in this industry. It just seems like you can really get caught up in it and, sell yourself out really, really fast in this industry. And it's hard, I think, to go, especially nowadays, it's hard to be that one guy that goes against what everybody else is saying. We've seen a lot of that over the last few years. So, but it's like knowing your place with God. And it's like, I'm not wavering on that no matter what. So I think that's amazing too. And I don't know, I'm sure you had many run-ins where maybe that was tested a little bit, but.
Well, yeah, but again, I go back to the New York thing. Something that's intrinsic about New Yorkers is they can't help but say what's on their mind. So
that's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is.
Yes.
But you've got to be who you are. And you've got to realize, I think, again, you've got to realize that this isn't something I'm up to. I'm a part of what God is up to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds so simple to say. I'd say it again. God is up to something that I'm part of. God is up to something that you're part of.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not up to something that I'm inviting God into.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people make that mistake.
Mm.
And I go ahead and say it's a mistake. God, help me do what it is I want to do. And what you want to do is probably what God wants you to do, but it's important how you ask, I think.
Yeah.
And acknowledge that it's him that's doing it. I think a lot of people like to take credit for their own success or their own things that happen in their life, and without giving credit where it's due and saying, no, I'm grateful. I am grateful. I sound like you.
She does go off on that. Yeah.
Grateful for where I'm at, grateful for everything that he has blessed me with. And it could be taken like that,
Yeah. And what am I supposed to do with it?
Yes, exactly. Not hoard it.
Yeah. What
Yes.
Who's and I think it has to do with helping other people. What's supposed to happen today?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How am I? I'm expecting great things, right? I'm part of something you're doing. So what do I need to do today in this conversation?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And don't plan ahead. Just be truthful.
Yeah. Well, I think surrendering is important too, like in the moment, like being part of what God wants you to do, but if it's not what he wants you to do, being able to be okay with that, I think is hard for a lot of people sometimes too, to not be able to surrender to his will.
Yeah.
And I think we all run into that a little bit.
Yeah, it's hard to figure out what that is.
Yeah.
So again, I'm kind of a jump off the cliff and grow my wings on the way down, sort of a guy. But that's how I've always been.
Yeah.
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 It's authentic. And that you shouldn't have to edit who you were created to be either.
Yeah.
Right. And you get to a point where people are going to do something that have just a little more information or just a little more inkling that, it's the right thing to do. I would rather make my wonderful choral teacher in high school. And he always said that a loud mistake is better than a soft nothing. So I make a lot of very loud mistakes. And I will make a lot of I'll do it a lot more.
Yeah.
But I'm in the game.
Yeah.
And if you're waiting to be in the game until it's just right, you'll never get in the game.
Yeah.
You just won't do it.
Yeah.
It's against human nature.
It's being
and
bold.
the devil doesn't want you to do it.
Yeah.
God calls us to be bold.
Yeah.
I think a lot, I'm a people pleaser, so I definitely have spent a lot of my life worrying what people think. My husband's also from the East Coast, and I always admire that he just doesn't care. He says what he thinks, and he stands on his principles.
Can't help
and
it.
Yeah.
He's like, he can't help it. And I'm like, sometimes I'm like, well, that was pretty direct. And he said, that's how I feel about it. That's what it is. And I'm always like, wow, I wish I could be a little bit more like that.
Well, and people who are like that, you could say things to them that they disagree with, and it's like, okay, well, that's cool.
Yes, they respect your
right to have your opinion. And and however wrong we may think it is.
Yeah, exactly.
I say everyone has a right to my opinion.
Yeah.
That's where I butt heads with, or people actually butt heads with me because they think I'm so direct and I'm so this, and this, that they think, I'm belligerent about it, and they must believe what I don't care if you believe what I believe.
But you just know what you believe.
I know what I believe.
Yeah.
I know where I'm going. I know I'm in the game.
Something refreshing about that. Like, I think that's a good quality to know, to be clear. There's so much second guessing in our culture, and you can't say this and you can't say that. And just to be clear about what you believe is so refreshing, I think.
Yeah.
And they will turn that against you, and that's okay. Because again, there is a bad side. There's a dark side.
Yes.
The dark side.
The dark side.
But so you have to, if you're in the game, whatever sport you play, if you're in the game and you're a threat, you're going to be double teamed.
Yeah.
So the goal, I think, is opposition. Because if you're out there and you think you're making a difference, you think you're doing what God wants you to do for him, and nobody's on your butt, then you're probably not.
Yeah.
Because the devil doesn't want people to be effective.
That's true.
He doesn't want you to be out there and making a difference in people's lives, and he doesn't want us to be having this conversation.
Yeah.
That's so true. And I feel like you're under attack so much more when you're exactly where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, we've seen it. We've seen it in
Yes.
our lives too. And one of our recent episodes, we talked about one of the things God really does not stand for is cowards.
Right.
And he doesn't, that's just not okay with him. He wants you to stand up for what's right and not be ashamed and not be embarrassed. And it's so amazing that you've done that on so many levels when it's tough. I'm like you, I'm a people pleaser. I'm a publicist for a living. So I'm a people pleaser. So it's like, I don't want my feelings hurt. I want everyone to like me. I want everything to be okay. And so it's hard to sometimes just be so confident in what you believe. But I feel like with both of us, even making the decision to do this podcast was like, we have to be okay with it. Some people aren't going to like it. And we've had a few haters that come on, and we're okay with it. I feel like, sometimes I want to snap back. I'm sure as you do on social media.
I'll snap back too.
I don't, but it's like, it's okay. Let him think what we do, because I'm doing what I know God called me to do. God called me to do this podcast. God called me to do ministry work. And this was the way he's asking me to do it. And and we talked about that in my life personally. Whenever God tells me to move or do something and I ignore it, he will move me in the most inconvenient way possible. And I've learned my lesson. If he tells me to do it, I just do it, because I don't want to ever be back in that spot where I didn't obey him. And so I think that's part of what this podcast is just that obedience and that confidence and that leap of faith to stand up for what's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
we need more of that.
And if you're wrong,
I'm
we know
never
where we're
wrong.
going.
No, I'm just kidding.
I'm not. But we know where we're going.
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah.
So it's not that I don't care what people think, but I have to say what I've been given to say.
Yeah.
And if people take that the wrong way, that's okay. I'm not here to make people like me. I'm not here to make people agree with me. Some people do. But I don't want the people that don't agree with me to pretend that they agree with me.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know, so, I want it to be real.
Have you always been this way, or was there, because earlier in your career, obviously, you as a young actor were probably trying to like get in the right rooms and make the right impressions and everything. Was there a point in your life where you felt like there was a switch in you? I mean, or has this always just been? No,
no. A dear friend of mine, when I first met him like 35, 40 years ago, and I was talking like this.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, you only talk that way because of who you are. And I said, no, I'm only who I am because I talk that way. And he's a very intelligent guy. And he's like, I have to think about that for a while. Damn, you're right. So no, what a Denver pile. My dear Uncle Jesse on Dukes of Hazzard, he meant this as a wonderful compliment. So I was probably 19 years old or so. And he said, John, I don't want you to ever change. And I said, well, thank you, Denver. And he said, you more than anyone I've ever met have the strength of your ignorance.
You're
and
like,
I thought,
oh.
well, okay. And he said, before you take that the wrong way. And I said, good, because I was just about to. And he said, no, before you take that the wrong way. He said, somehow you've maintained that you don't know that what you're doing is hard, very unlikely, and nearly impossible. The Dukes of Hazzard, this number one show. And I'd go out and do other things. And I did music and I did all this. And he said, it's so much fun to watch you because you don't seem to realize that what you're doing is really not possible.
Mm. Yeah, 1 in a million.
But everybody who is on track, I think everybody who is working within their design is that person. Mm-hmm. Gosh, I had another friend that said, did God make you, I think I said it earlier, did God make you a hammer or a nail or a piece of wood? Because you can bang on a hammer with a nail all day and you're not going to build anything.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are you? Are you a piece of wood? You can hit a nail with a piece of wood and it's not going to be very effective. But if you put the piece of wood down and put the nail on it, put the hammer on it, if you get the order right, then you can actually build something. And I think, again, it's so important for people to realize what it is they're supposed to do. And personally, I still think that comes to us at about 4 years old. We whatever it is that we wanted to be before the world and people who loved us talked us out of our dream, we were on the right track. So I tell people a lot, again, because they say, well, that's easy for you to say because, it's look at what you're doing. And I said, no. If you can't wait for Friday, then you're in the wrong job. And I don't mean go out and quit and find the right job. No, but start taking the steps. I mean, my gosh, with all the stuff we have with the internet, with podcasts, with all of the tools available to us today, there is no reason in the world why anybody should be a thank God it's Friday person. Nothing against the restaurant.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't be that.
Right.
Because I guarantee you, whatever it is you're doing that you don't like, that's not working within God's design. I don't care how much you tithe. I don't care how Christian you are. I don't care how godly you are. If you don't like your job, then it's the wrong job. The devil's winning.
Yeah.
So figure out a way to do the right job, and God will bless you in it. Or you don't believe in God.
Yeah. Well, I think that's when you take a leap of faith.
I'll tell you. If you're afraid to do what you love and afraid to stop doing what you hate, and you say you love God, you've never met.
Yeah. Yeah.
There.
I
know
agree.
that aggravated a bunch of people, but you needed to be aggravated because you need to be motivated to do what you're supposed to do. And I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
That's another thing drives me crazy. People telling other people what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
How do you know?
Yeah. Yeah. You don't know what they're. No, I think that's where you take that leap of faith. And it's hard to jump in and trust. And we've talked about this before. It's like many times in our lives where you take this leap and you jump into, God's got me. It's hard to be in that position to say, I don't have to worry. Like you say, you jump off the cliff and you know you're going to get your wings on the way down.
Yeah, or you may break something, but it'll heal.
Yeah, right? It's okay.
Climb back up and jump off again.
At least you took a chance. And I think, yeah.
Well, you get refined through the failures too. It's really hard when you're in that season of failure or disappointment to trust that there is a bigger picture. Yeah. And I think as I've gotten older, I actually feel like in the last 4 years has been such an eye-opening and refining piece in people's life. Not just mine, but I feel like a lot of my friends have seen God's grace on a daily basis as opposed to it being, I'm on the other side of it looking back. We've walked through the fire together, and I think it's made me much more aware of him being in every day and the refining in each day. So did you, when in your career, did you feel like there was times where there was a lot of darkness around you and you really had to combat that? Because I know for me, I've seen a lot of that. So as a young, handsome, very young man in the industry, you were only 19, right, when you did Dukes of Hazzard?
18, actually.
18,
yeah.
baby.
Big diff, right?
Yes.
But
that is a big difference.
At 18 it is. Oh, 19, wow.
Yes, wow. I'm adult for 2 years.
Yeah, but it never really got me off of my, the weight has always been on the balls of my feet. So it never really got me out of that. So there was the dark side. There was nothing, there's opposition. I mean, and there's also certainly the last year has been pretty wonderful. The year before that was really rough and about got me off of everything.
Yeah.
But God pays attention.
Yes, he does.
So God sent a widower to a widow and a widow to a widower who get it, who understand. Because I tell you what, I was ready to give it up, all of it.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
And then just when I thought the very notion of dating or holding another hand was repulsive, is that the word we said? Repulsive. I met
this one.
That crazy dame over there. Yeah.
There's nothing like a dame.
I know nothing in the world. But truly, that's like, that was a miracle.
It's beautiful. That's beauty in ashes. That's like knowing exactly what you needed at the right time.
Well, yeah, and I can honestly say I didn't want it.
Yeah.
I was done.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, and if God had, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be here. There's not a chance in the world.
Yeah. Wow. He knows what we need.
No, because I'd be like, I remember I posted a bunch of things. I said, well, people say, well, God's not done with you yet. I said, well, what else am I going to do? Really? Now there's the New Yorker, right? What else am I going to do? The Children's Miracle Network, the Dukes of Hazzard, did this, did that, and the other thing. What if I died tomorrow? Are people going to say, oh, he had so much more to do? No, I did a lot. But now I know there's a lot more to do.
Yeah. Hope again.
Because God's up to something that I'm part of. I always knew that. But that was, God, that was big.
Wow. That's pretty amazing.
And it's pretty amazing. And knowing and being able to see, like we had talked about that, being able to, because I just had to go through my own trial of a lifetime. I guess our listeners kind of know a little bit. I've been a little MIA, but I just buried my mom a month ago. And then 3 days being home, I get a call that my 26-year-old son has cancer. So I had to fly to LA. I just flew back this week. And it's like, but it was like so devastating, right? Especially not, because all I want to do is have my mom to get me through this. And then it's like, but I saw some things happen where I'm like, now I understand what God's doing. It seems like it's painful in the moment, but I see what he's doing. I see his plan and that he's doing something in my son's life, in all of this. And so just like you were saying, you'll be able to see the other side of that. Like you're able to see that he loves us and he's not, and like in Jeremiah, my plans for your life are good, not evil.
Right.
Like he only wants good for us. And so I feel and understand that because I've gone through that just recently, but to be able to so suddenly see the reason for it all. And that is a God who loves us unconditionally, that it might hurt for a minute, but he will do everything to make sure we stay on that path, to make sure we're doing our purpose. And so I get it. And I get that there is beauty in the ashes. And I'm reminded of that. And
when we get there,
yeah,
it'll be like, do you remember kindergarten? Absolutely. I can remember kindergarten. It was a second ago.
Yeah.
And when we get there, it'll be a second ago. My grandmother will say, told you, right? Told you I'd see you again.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
And
the hope. That's
my
such a
mother, my
beautiful
dad,
hope.
Yeah.
Alicia, my little brother. Well, I'm actually his little brother. He died before I was born. But all those people that I've missed, it'll be as if nothing happened.
Yeah, no time.
Or no time has passed.
Yeah.
Or it was just like, science class in 11th grade.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the first day of Dukes of Hazzard. I can remember that. It was 40-something years ago.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it. It only feels like it as it's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are things that life will throw you to get you off track. And you have to expect those too.
Yeah.
And I don't mean you should applaud them when they come, because I say that kind of cavalierly about other things, about career problems. But when someone you love is diagnosed with cancer, when someone you love passes away, that's hard.
Yeah.
Because you can't fix that. You can't work around it. You can't work under it. You can't get over it. Like the song says, you have to go through it. But what is that doing? Your son's diagnosis is not so that something will change in you.
Yeah.
It's something for him, I think.
I agree.
That's so interesting
My
you saying
tragedy, Dee Dee's tragedy, was not to grow us because we're so important. No, it's like, what do you always say? It's not what happens, it's what you do with it. So there are people, I think, who are going through what you're going through what I've been through, going through what she's been through, that are strengthened by it. Or at least I hope so. Otherwise, their suffering is in vain.
Yeah.
And I don't believe God. We don't love a God who allows people to suffer in vain.
Yeah.
So there's a reason for it.
Absolutely.
And when we get there, like I said again, who was it? Who wrote A Grief Observed? C.S. Lewis. And he said that he wrote Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe too. And he said he was convinced that when he got there, he would go, oh, it obviously couldn't have been any other way.
Yeah.
So for what is it? For now we see through a glass darkly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No matter what we think, right? This ain't it.
Yeah.
And I don't know that this is the proving ground for it. I don't know if this is the waiting room for it. I don't know what it is, but this ain't it.
Yeah.
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 My grandmother will hold my hand again.
Yeah.
She will do that funny thing with her false teeth that made me laugh.
I had a grandmother that did that. She'd pop her teeth out and I'd grab it.
Yeah, it's great. So that will happen, and from now until then, whether it's 30 minutes or 30 years, don't render yourself ineffective. Be effective. Live, laugh, love.
Yeah.
Do what it is you're supposed to do. But I tell you what, that was hard for a while.
Yeah.
My weight was no longer on the balls of my feet. My weight was on my heels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, like, no.
Yeah.
Never felt anything like that in my life.
Yeah.
Grief is such a process too, and it's so different for all of us. And it's really, you're just in survival mode. And and I always would say, after going through it, myself, to people that are going through trauma, it will pass, and you will smile again, because you just feel like
And
you're
laugh.
never going. You will laugh again. And I remember when I was going through it, thinking it's not possible. You just feel so weighted.
I don't even
by
want
that.
to.
I don't want to. It doesn't feel appropriate, or everything. You get these waves of feelings that you don't make any sense to you.
Right.
Like hysteria, and then sadness, and then just all over the place. And you just have to walk through it. And that's the only
Because you
way
don't
to
know where
get
to
through
put
it. Exactly. It's just very overwhelming.
So I'd pray to get my want to back.
Yeah.
I've got plenty of go do. I've got plenty of, I'm going to go do it. But I never didn't want to before. So I still didn't just go through the motions. So still did an album, finished a book.
Wow.
But I really didn't want to.
Right.
I had to.
Have you, when you go
I
back,
had to get to Friday. I was thank God it's Friday.
Yeah.
when you got
person for a little while.
when you listened to the things that you did, or wrote the things that you did at that time, do you see that in those pieces, or do you feel like they were still good?
No, they're God speaking.
Right.
I mean, truly.
Mm.
And they are helpful to other people. Sadly,
Yes.
I can't listen to the music that I made during that time. I just can't,
Wow.
Yeah.
because I'm not there
Right.
anymore.
Right. It's raw.
So it had to be that God said, okay, I didn't do this so that you would do that, but since this happened, do this, because there's other people that need to hear that.
Right.
And you got to get that out, or it will kill you.
Yes. Yes.
So, so you have, it's complicated.
It's a gift to be a creative in those situations, because you do have outlets, and that's a blessing.
Yes, and I had wonderful relationships with writers and musicians where I could say, look, I need to write a song about this. One song was written, and it was written with a young lady who was saved by Children's Miracle Network hospitals through Vanderbilt.
Wow.
And we wrote a beautiful song called Why Did You Leave Me Here? And as we were doing that, I thought, my God, this is so, again, I don't think that cancer happened so that, because then I think that's like bolstering yourself up. Well, your life was inconsequential because it was given so that I could write that. No, it's got nothing to do with that. But as I saw, my gosh, this thing happened that made me want to jump off a bridge. This person's life was saved through something I started
That's beautiful.
40 years ago,
Yes.
helped start 40 years ago. And now we're sitting here writing this song about,
Isn't that amazing?
it's so that
That's amazing.
God pays attention.
Yes, that's amazing.
And, we are, I think we're more than just chess pieces on a board, but that's what we are. It's his board.
Yeah, I always say that. I always share that I feel like he's up there. It's almost like a chess game in a way, but he's always moving everything
Orchestrating.
around to make sure and protecting us. It's like against the devil, but he's really in charge and moving those pieces. I love that you say that, because I always say that about, it's like a chess game up there, and he's got us.
Yeah, it's not checkers.
He's moving it. Yeah. It's not checkers.
Are you playing checkers while God is playing chess?
Yeah, exactly. It's beautiful when you get to see His grace. I mean, that's what this podcast is all about: is sharing people's story of grace. And it's.
I never thought I'd laugh again.
Yeah, yeah. But
Never
that's
thought
God.
I'd want to.
That's God doing something. He did something to help, to bring you, because he doesn't want to see, that's what I remember in everything, is like, he doesn't want to see you suffer. He loves us. It's like your own children. You don't want to torture your children. You don't find joy in that. You want to give them happiness. You give them everything. We spoil them because we want them to have so much.
But when they're learning a lesson, you want them to learn it.
Yeah. Yeah.
When things, because I can't think of anything else in your life really, except maybe losing a limb, where there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
I said you can't talk around it. You can't reason around it.
Yeah.
Nothing you can do. That's a God thing.
Yeah.
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 And he's like, okay, well, you were watching the game, but now you're in it.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Now, all of this time, and again, God didn't take Paul so that Dee Dee could learn something. God didn't take Alicia so that I could learn something. That happened.
Yeah.
Right.
What are we going to do with it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And God's sitting there, and what was it? This picture of God and Job, or God and the devil sitting on a fence watching a television show called Job.
Yeah, yeah.
What is Job going to do now? What can I throw?
Yeah.
Well, you can do anything but kill him. Don't kill him. Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we have to. What do we do with the cards we've been dealt, or what do we, remembering still that God is up to something that we're part of.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do now?
Yeah. And it's your attitude, I feel like, in it too. We talked about this with my situation. I had somebody that, a friend of mine, not really that big of a believer, but was like, oh, aren't you mad at God? How could God just allow these things to happen? You were hit with so much in 6 weeks. And I'm like, no, I guess I'm thinking I'm really grateful that I have a business that I can sit by my mother's bedside while she's going through this for 2 weeks and not, for a month and be gone. And then to be able to turn around and sit by my son's, that to me is a blessing that he's blessed me with things that, because a lot of people don't have that. I don't have to worry about my finances. I don't have to worry about everything is okay. Like God, to me, that's the greatest gift. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like, how can I be angry with him? And then we shared stories. I mean, all the little tender mercies and angels along the way, friends and strangers who just it was a renewed faith for me. Like I don't lack my faith, but sometimes it can be refreshed. And we remember like he is doing all of these beautiful things. So when someone's like, how can you not be mad? I'm like, how could I be mad? I mean, I've got the best of the worst situation. And I feel like that to me is God helping me and guiding me through this. That to me made it a lot easier to get through this. So we have to look at the good in the bad too, and that his love is unconditional. He's going to get us through it. He gives us the trial, but we're not in it alone. We're never in it alone.
Because he's up to something.
Exactly.
That we're part of.
Yeah.
And I keep going back to that. But I had so many people say to me, well, after you've got to go through your being angry at God part. And I thought, I really haven't been angry at God.
Yeah.
Angry at the situation, but not
well,
at
I'm
God.
angry. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'd be angry at me, be angry at, but I've never was not like, God, no, it didn't happen. And it got to the point where I started to think, well, maybe I need to find a reason to be mad at God.
Everyone keeps
but
saying
I couldn't.
it. Yeah.
But I couldn't.
No.
Maybe I'm not Christian enough because I'm not mad at God. No, that can't be.
Yeah.
So again, what do you do with it? What do you do with the situation? Because again, you'll be there. One day you'll be there. And it's well done, good and faithful servant. Well, it's easy to be a good and faithful servant when things are going well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's hard when they're not. And it's really hard when they're really not.
Yeah.
So keep being who you are. Keep being who you were made to be, because God is up to something that you're part of. And if you don't know what that is yet, ask him. He'll tell you. He's been waiting.
Yeah.
He's still sitting on that fence waiting, and it doesn't mean he's indecisive. He's just saying, I don't know who God, I don't know when something happens and God wants to say thank God, I don't know who God thanks. But
He's just like, finally.
Thank me,
Just says,
thank
finally.
me for being amazing.
But it's like I thought you'd never ask.
Yeah, yeah.
Here's what you do, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh wow. And then you are impassioned. You are refueled. You're not bulletproof.
Yeah.
But you don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got the weight back on the balls of your feet, and you're going for it.
Yeah.
You're welcoming opposition.
Yeah.
And you're not antagonizing opposition, but you're welcoming opposition because it means you're on the right track.
Yeah.
Because you have the ball. It's God's ball. It's God's game. You have the ball, and you're being double teamed. Well, that's not enough. I want to be good enough that there are 10 people on me.
Yeah.
I want them to ignore everyone else on the field.
Yeah.
Come after me. I want to be that bad.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah.
A rebel.
There's a quote. What's a quote? It says, your life doesn't begin the day you're born. Your life begins the day that you find God's purpose for it. Have you heard that quote before?
No, but I agree with that
Yeah, that's
1,000%.
the day your life begins, when you find your purpose.
Yeah.
And that to me is so true. And I feel like that's just so true in so many ways. There's a whole new you that begins with that. I feel like when you know him, you know the purpose and you know the plan, and you're ready to walk into that fire with him, that refiner's fire, which I've been in for a while and I don't like it anymore. Yeah. I'm ready to be out of that fire. But
are
I
you
know
Shadrach,
that
Meshach, or Abednego?
Yeah.
Who are you? Or the other,
Yeah, but I know there's beauty in it, and I'm so thankful that I don't have to wait years to see it. Like I'm seeing it already. I'm seeing what he's doing. I won't talk about that, but I'm like, I see what he's doing, and it's beautiful. And I'm like, I trust you, God. However you have to bring things to be, I'm on board with you. And that's where testimony comes in. Like you were saying, you can't be angry with him because you have a testimony of him. You know his love for you. You can't, he's not doing it spitefully. He loves us. And that's a beautiful place to be able to realize that and take it out to the world and stand up for it, which you're an amazing example of that. We're just really, really proud that so many people are standing up for what's right, because it's really hard in today's society. It's hard to be that guy that goes against it. But I feel like he's calling his soldiers.
I don't know why people are afraid to say what they believe in. And it makes me question whether they believe it or not.
Yeah.
So I'd rather be the guy that God has to grab the back of my shirt and say, hang on.
Yeah.
Look at my feet are going. My feet are going. I'm like, come on, let me in. Because everybody's not going to like you. That's one of the things. I mean, there are Facebook friends and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody really is infatuated with the notion that they have to have people like them. I don't.
Doesn't
my
matter.
dad said to me, if everybody likes you, you're lying to somebody.
Something's wrong. Yeah.
Right? If everybody agrees with you, you're not telling the truth.
Yeah.
So, take a risk, say what you think, be who you are, and get something done.
Yeah.
And if it blows up in your face, it's okay. Do it again. Or change
Tomorrow's
it.
a new day.
Change it a little bit.
I need to keep you on my shoulder and Kat, remember.
Yeah, right? Yeah. We're going to call you
Punch
when we're
me.
like on there.
Be like, John, I'm
need
scared.
your advice. Yeah.
No, get on your balls of your feet.
Yeah.
That's right. Balls of your feet. Wait on the balls of your feet.
feet.
And remember that thing my friend said, you just say this, you talk that way because of who you are. Nope.
Yeah.
And
I'm
speaking
who I am
of bold,
because I talk that way.
You got to listen to his new song. Tell us about what inspired that
She's
song.
Worth It?
Yes. It's like a real American song.
Yeah.
Well, we're being taught, the young folks are being intentionally misled by the old folks, which I think is the first time in my life that I've seen that happen.
Yeah.
The older generation is always different from the one coming up, and there's always been, back in my day, we call it a generation gap. And it was because young people are coming. Of course, they're going to make mistakes. And as parents, we try to make it so our children don't sit on the same stoves that we sat on, the hot stove. But they're going to have to sit on some of their own stoves.
Yeah. And I think for what's coming, I think the best thing is going to be that discernment. And I think people just need to get as close to God, because I think there's going to be a lot of deceiving on both sides, and it's like, you just stay focused on him, right? That's as long as you're focused on him,
Judge
you'll know,
everything
you'll
him.
do.
That's why you got to know the Bible so
having
well.
that testimony. Exactly.
It's like knowing his word that's your sword. And if you don't know the word, you don't know what to look out for. You don't know how you're going to be deceived.
No, and it's hard because people just some people are just raised one way and don't know the difference and don't seek out God and don't get the truth, and it's hard to sit back and watch that. So it's important to take a stand, and I hope that we know you're going to continue to do it. I hope people listening today will be reminded to step into their purpose, to find their purpose, to stand up for what's right.
That's a cool thing. He'll tell you.
Yeah.
Find a little quiet spot, or if you're in a tough spot, ask him.
Yeah.
He'll yell it to you. He may whisper.
Yeah.
If you're in a quiet spot, but if God needs to yell at you for you to get it, but I do believe that you have to initiate the conversation. I really do.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah. Well,
but I believe that if you seek, you will find. I guess that's
I
it.
think it's where free agency comes in a little bit. Like he wants to give it to you, but he needs you to come to him. It needs to be an open door, an open conversation, that whatever that I saw a picture a long time ago where God was standing at the door, but there was only a door handle on one side, right? Like he's waiting for you to open that door.
Yeah, that's a good
So it's not because of rules and regulations, but I think the only time you're ready to hear the answer is when you are humbled enough, brave enough, weak enough, broken enough to ask the question.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So when you do, he'll answer it.
Yeah, when your heart is open. I love it. I love it. Well, this has been amazing.
Yes.
Well, tell people, where can they follow? Because we know you're on
Yes,
X.
and what do you have coming up?
I have an
tell
app.
us
I have
about
an
your
app
project.
called John Schneider, so you can get that app.
An
It's
app?
free. An app.
How
Wow.
very progressive of
I
you.
know. Well, you know.
One more thing to add to your
Yeah,
list. I
put
was
it on
writing
your
your
phone. That's
intro,
right.
and
Put it
I
on
was
your
like,
phone.
wow, he's got a lot going on.
Yep.
I need to step up my game.
That, and then the new album is called John Schneider's Made in America, and that'll be out for 4th of July
Okay.
this year. And then not sure what the thing right after that is.
Yeah.
But I know there's a lot going on. There's a whole lot going on. There's some
Yeah.
residual stuff from in my family that's kind of more tests and things, tests of stability and tests of patience and
Families can be tricky.
you know.
We need God's grace more with our families.
Absolutely. I got one of those
Yeah, but
families.
I know they need
Yes.
God's grace with me too. So
Yes.
I get that. So
Yes.
Yeah.
but as far as career goes and all that, I'll just see where it's going. The weight's on the balls of my feet,
Yes.
and was just in the recording studio today, just before I came here,
Awesome.
Okay.
and we did a beautiful song called "Thank You for Your Sacrifice." That's part of the new album, and it's for our Gold Star families, because it occurred to me that people thank our servicemen and women and our firefighters and our police officers, all those first responder folks, for their service. But really, I think you need to thank them for their sacrifice,
Yeah.
especially if there's a family who lost a family member fighting for our
Ultimate
Yes.
freedom.
sacrifice. Yeah.
Yeah, so they gave the
Absolutely.
last full measure.
Yeah.
And I think we need to thank them all the
beautiful.
time and let them know that their sacrifice was not in vain.
Absolutely. So
So-
important. So
Yeah.
important.
So that's part of the album.
That's beautiful.
Made in America is actually about the mistakes. You know, I pray that we fix the mistakes we've made in America. It's about what we're talking about here. So it's not
Yeah.
about a truck. It's not about Ford Tough. It's about recognizing that we are going through some very perilous times,
Yeah.
the heart of America.
and we've got to fix it.
Yeah.
You know, this isn't a problem somebody else is going to fix.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, God wants to see what we're going to do with it.
Yeah.
He didn't create the problem,
Yeah.
but he's watching to see what we're going to do with it.
Yeah.
And
'Cause God is up to
music
something.
is a powerful way to get a message across to someone. You know,
Yeah.
so you find yourself
Yeah.
singing songs sometimes, and you're like, wait a second, those words, that's powerful. You know,
Yeah.
on both
Yeah.
sides.
Yeah.
Well, it's
So,
wonderful to be in a
yes.
town like this and have
Yes.
singer-songwriter friends where you can just be
Yes.
having a conversation and go, wait a minute,
That's a song.
that's a song. I mean, that happens
Yeah.
all the time.
Yes.
Great songs come out of that.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so
Amazing.
much.
You're so welcome.
You're so
Yes.
wonderful. I can't believe I've known you, met you 7 years ago at a convention in Tyler, Texas. We were in
Oh,
a
yeah.
hangar or something. It was the strangest situation. And we were all like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
And then I've seen you across the room. I'm like, I have to go and say hello. And then here we are reunited in Nashville. Crazy.
Well, I'm so delighted to be here. I truly
Yes.
am. Thank you for having me. Thanks for the conversation. It's a great conversation.
And thank you for sharing
Yeah.
your heart with us. We really appreciate
Absolutely.
Yeah.
it. You've said so many wonderful little nuggets for our listeners. We're very grateful.
For sure.
Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time on Grace Begins Podcast.
Thanks.